When Robert Lee landed this bass on the California Delta last year, we all knew it was something special. And as it turned out, it was to be the catch of the year.
I got you. Oh, now that's what I like. Oh, my God.
Well, I'm Tommy Sanders, and we think the planets are lined up in such a way that we'll top that highlight with the biggest season ever here on the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail presented by Busch. This year, the tour is going to take a giant step forward, taking the competition to a whole new level.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is presented by Busch.
And there's our destination for today, on the border between Texas and Louisiana. As a matter of fact, it's the largest man-made water impoundment in all the South, Toledo Bend Reservoir. It was constructed, been in business since 1969, 185,000 acres, and in those acres, so many bass that they have held no fewer than 11 Bassmaster tournaments there since 1970. Now, the tour doesn't begin until the end of this month, but all through the fall, the division tournaments have been going on, and we come now to the Division Open Championship. The top 20 performers from each of the 4 divisions here to slug it out in Fishburne. There's a lot on the line.
Man, we've got a lot of information to pass on to you. Get a load of this. 80 guys from the boater division, 80 guys from the non-boater division. What's at stake? Yeah, bragging rights. Sure, money. But you know what the #1 thing is? The Citgo Bassmasters Classic. One man, the champion, will go on to Charlotte, North Carolina later this summer to compete. There's only going to be one guy, Tommy, that's going to have that proverbial monkey lifted off of his back.
A monkey on the back is perfect. When I qualified 2 years ago for the Classic, it was like a whole new world open to me. I'd always got the rap that I really was a good Western fisherman, but I could never make the Bassmaster Classic. So once I did that, it really did. Last year was a great year. I ended up 5th in Angler of the Year, so it was I just fish real confidently now.
Also from this event, we will see a new concept unfold in bass fishing. One angler will qualify for an upcoming made-for-TV special called the Busch Shootout, the largest payout for a one-day event we've ever seen in the sport of bass fishing. The guy here with the largest creel is going to go on to the Busch Shootout. Tommy, this is not one of those preseason games. This is the real thing.
It absolutely is. Also kicking in at this event, the Purelator Big Bass Award. That's going to add a lot to every stop along the tour this year. The man so far, Alabama's Tim Horton. Check out this giant from the first day of competition.
What a chunk. Great fish.
Yeah, that was about my 3rd cast this morning. It was all downhill from there.
Get a weight, $1,000. Got it, 7 pounds and 1 ounce.
All right, can Tim Horton hang on and win that Purelator Big Bass Award for this first stop of the year? He's going to have to sit on the sidelines and watch as he is not fishing today, the championship day. And to get this big day underway, now's the time we bring in Jerry McInnes. Jerry?
Here is what I hope. I hope that that wind does not blow today like it did during a couple of qualifying days. Man, was it rough. And Toledo Bend lays north and south, and that's the direction the wind was blowing, north and south. Boy, it was rough. But we've got some big boys here today, and for some reason, the big boys seem to excel in rough weather.
We thrive on adverse conditions. I don't like it where everybody's catching them and it's easy, and, everybody's having, so-called a good time. I'm here to compete. I'm here to try to, be at the top at the very last day.
Well, Gary Klein will be in these finals today, along with John Murray and Greg Hackney, who have very interesting game plans that we will obviously share with you. And guys, before I give it right back to you, one big prediction here. This is going to be the biggest year ever.
I agree with you, Jerry. The payouts are increasing. The fields, the opportunities to become professional anglers, it's growing in leaps and bounds, but you know what? I'm privy to some information. I can't talk about it right now, but it's coming out soon.
And we're going to get to it today. We are going to take some giant steps this year. Another thing you mentioned, Jerry, is the fact that there's some big boys in our lineup today. Why don't we illustrate that? Let's show our players on this championship day. Beginning with Greg Hackney from Gonzales, Louisiana, an up-and-coming guy. Had a great classic. He's a great jig fisherman. Jack Wade from Tennessee, a great smallmouth fisherman. That's what his reputation is built on. Rick Clunn, is he the best that there ever was? Gary Klein. Besides Clunn, I'd like you to show us a more fierce competitor. How about John Murray? He may have the most powerful tool in his arsenal today, the 7-pound lead. And Stacey King, he has won on this lake before, and that also is very, very important. And Fish, we are finally getting this thing underway. Our launch area, Cypress Bend, just below the Pendleton Bridge here on Toledo Bend. We'll look in here on Stacey King, and you'll see that scoreboard change as he puts a keeper in the boat.
Stacey King loves this Toledo Bend Lake. He is on fire here. In 2002, he won the Citgo Bassmaster Open, walked away with $50,000. He's looking at a lot more at stake this week on Toledo Bend. Versatility and experience, that's the key at this level.
You'll notice I'm fishing a big main lake flat here, basically right at the mouth of this creek, and that north wind has been crashing in here the last couple of days. These fish have just not been active at all. But it's calm in here this morning, and I've seen quite a bit of bait fish activity and a couple of carp coming up, and that's the first fish activity I've seen here in 3 days, so I'm feeling comfortable that maybe the fish are going to be a little more active and bite a little bit better today.
Again, it's an impressive top 6, and there were some outside folks, some observers, that thought maybe the heavy hitters shouldn't be in these open tournaments and this open championship. Rick Clunn had a good response to that.
One of the things I always wanted to know when I was beginning fisherman is how I stacked up against the best there was. So this is an opportunity for those guys who are thinking about the circuit, you know, wondering about their ability to actually have a pretty good way of measuring themselves when they fish these, you know. I mean, I've heard guys say, man, I've got ways to go, you know, before I can take on you guys. And we'll probably save them a little money, you know, and that way. But then there'll be some guys that'll say, you know, I ain't that far off. So at least you get to measure your true ability.
Boy, Rick Clunn is hard to measure up to, but like I've already told you, Greg Hackney, who's down lake about a half hour there in Caney Creek, Greg Hackney is going to be tough here, and Greg's first up when we get back.
Greg Hackney, Stacey King, Jack Wade, all 3 of those anglers are on the way. We'll check in with them, and we're really looking forward to introducing you to the Bassmaster Elite 50, the E50, the ultimate big step to the next level for professional bass fishing. Yeah. Competition at the highest level for the best players in the whole world. That is coming up today. We will explain it all for you, so don't go away.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Citgo, and in part by Bush, and by Purelator.
Now the sun is up properly. We've got plenty of light to work with. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful day on Toledo Bend Reservoir. The Citgo Bassmaster Tour presented by Bush Beer. This is our Open Championship. John Murray with the prodigious lead, 47 pounds. Gary Klein, his nearest pursuer. The man in 6th place with the farthest to go on this final championship day is this man right here from Knoxville, Tennessee, Jack Wade.
Tommy, I don't want to be 11 pounds behind in any tournament going into the 3rd day, but you better watch out because a Carolina rig is working for big Jack Wade. Jack Wade, in his part-time, you may remember, works as Santa Claus at several local malls near Knoxville.
Well, he's got the beard.
Makes about $1,600 additional dollars. Didn't have to have that at this event, Tommy. No entry fee for these guys. It's great.
It was really a good deal, this Open Championship, and Jack's fishing just above the Pendleton Bridge there, the Carolina rig. Why has he gone to that today?
Well, it's a high percentage bait on T-bend, especially throwing little worms. You're going to get more bites. He's probably fishing something in the 4 to 6 inch range, a straight tail worm, and he's Carolina rigging, got about a 3-foot leader, 7.5 foot rod, so you can really sweep the line when you feel the bass pick it up. And there's another spotted bass.
Spots are a little longer.
Jack Wade has been fishing for a long, long time, and he tells us he remembers something, one item from every fishing trip that he's ever been on. That is remarkable.
I think he's got a great memory. Hopefully he'll remember this event.
He would have to have.
Working his way to another classic. You know, Tommy, the last time that Jack won an event was around 1978 in the state of Florida. Took a few years off to relax, and now he's back on with a vengeance. He wants to win this thing.
Well, Jack Wade's certainly getting his share of bites today. Now, he's using this Carolina rig as a searching lure fish. Is this a prospecting rig for him?
It truly is. Tommy, you can throw the Carolina rig due to the fact that you've got a big weight on there and cover a lot of ground quickly, as opposed to a conventional Texas rig worm, which is very slow, and it's a bottom hopper.
He really wanted it. He can keep it. There's number 2. It's weird, I'm hitting a tree out there. as my bait comes up in it, those fish are taking a hold of it. They're not pecking it or nothing. And it's kind of like, is that a fish or is that the tree? And they're swimming at me. They're swimming to me.
Well, along with Jack, we have a legend with us today. Rick Clunn has had a great week, even led after day 2 with 30 pounds, 3 ounces, but like everyone else, he is struggling to not allow John Murray to run away with this thing.
Fall's my favorite time of the year. It's kind of like this morning. It's a surreal time of the year. It's quieter. Most fishermen, there's a lot of fishermen that hunt and they go hunting, and so they're off the lakes. A lot of guys watch football this time of year and they're off the lake. So it's really probably a more peaceful time of the year that still has pleasant weather. The fall patterns are some of my favorite patterns to fish, and that's the creeks. The fish are grouping back up in these wolf pack type schools, and you hit one, you'll able to hit 10, you know. That was what I found in practice. If you hit one, just stop, because there's some more right there where you caught that one.
Well, Rick Clunn perhaps finding it a little bit too peaceful so far today on Toledo Bend. He needs for the action to pick up a little bit. Needs to catch up with that wolf pack he was talking about there. Right now we go to Greg Hackney from Gonzales, Louisiana. Has had a great year, a good showing for himself at the Bassmasters Classic.
He certainly did, this first Classic appearance. And, you know, Tommy, look at how relaxed this kid is. He's sitting there, he's laid back. Uh-oh. Got him. Nope, lost him.
That was a good one. He knocked slack in the line. That's the bite I was looking for. Oh, what happened? Woo!
All right, now, Fish, why has Greg Hackney chosen this spot in particular to fish right now?
Well, the two predominant types of cover in Toledo Bend, definitely wood and grass. He's one of the top grass anglers on the tour.
Well, let's elaborate on the subject of grass, and I'm sure Jerry McInnes can do that for us. Why is grass Greg Hackney's friend?
Well, it is his friend, but it's deep grass. That's a big surprise. This grass is as deep as maybe 14 feet of water. The fish are not on the bottom, though. They're suspended maybe 3 or 4 feet below the surface in that grass. Now, I've got his jig right here. This is a heavy one. This is 1 ounce. He loves that green jig. This is a rattleback jig, and the secret is to pitch it in as many places as you possibly can, realizing the strike is going to come as the lure is falling. I've got a great example of what's going on right now. If you'll watch Greg, his boat is in 12 feet of water. He makes his pitch. Now count with me. 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot. Bam, there's that fish. That fish was in 4 or 5 feet of water, and again, his boat is sitting in 12 feet of water. He has a great game plan. He has a great feel for that lure. He sticks right with it. And I tell you what, guys, I know Murray's got a big lead, but Greg Hackney could still catch him.
Put him in the little fish side. And big ones go behind my seat. He was just on there. That's normally that smaller fish is like that. And better ones, normally they'll jump on it pretty good. Whew, thank you. Now I get to drive through up there with everybody else and weigh me one.
All right, something's happening with Stacey King. Let's jump over there. He's fishing in a little pocket off of Lowe's Creek, and this fish could pull him very close to Greg Hackney.
I was coming down through that channel, throwing a little crankbait, and I saw that bait and these fish right here in this channel, and I had a drop shot rigged up here on a heavy rod, and I just dropped her right down that bait and caught one. About 16, 18 foot right here in this channel. It comes up to about 5 on both sides of it. And I saw this bait down in there and a few arcs, you know, on this Lowrance depth finder. You can see that great. And I just have a heavy drop shot rig rigged up here with I'm using a Bass Pro Shop Sticko on it. It's a big bulky bait, but I've caught a few pretty nice ones in practice on it, but I had kind of forego it for my jig pattern. Oh, I missed it. Dang it. I had one hit that thing just as soon as it hit the bottom. Started moving with it, and I missed him.
Well, here we go, a good look at what that rig looks like underwater.
And Tommy, he's pitching a drop shot rig. That's uncommon. You want to know uncommon? I'll talk about it later in the program.
All right, the drop shot rig explored. Our leader, John Murray, we haven't had a good look at him yet. We will see him when we return. All these guys chasing after that top spot, and that means a trip to the Classic. For Rick Clunn, it could mean not being shut out of the Classic 3 consecutive years. That's all on the way.
And I understand Stacey King's wife, Peg, has a good luck charm, an actual tournament ritual of interest. I think you need to take a look at this.
She's got some real skimpy red bikini underwear that she wears on tournament day. If you put that on TV, we're all in trouble.
Welcome back to the Citgo Bassmaster Open Championship presented by Busch Beer, Toledo Bend Reservoir. Tommy Sanders, along with Fish Fishburne, Jerry McInnes. That's the old Pendleton Bridge, the old road from Louisiana into Texas. Our anglers gunning for that top prize, a trip to the Bassmasters Classic. And the man with the big lead is John Murray.
And John Murray is on fire. Boy, we're looking at his tracks from Cypress Bend over to the Texas side in Carice Creek. Caught a couple of keepers there. Then back to the Louisiana side and out in the mouth of San Miguel. And his first stop is over an old sunken bridge, and John's one of those new Western anglers, and we asked him to kind of explain the Western finesse technique for us.
The hotbed of probably in Southern California, where they have lakes the size of a cove here, and they'll have 300 boats on it, and the fish are in 80 feet of water, and they bite little tiny baits. So I mean, it's started there probably, drop shotting, split shotting, things like that, and it just sort of grew to the other lakes. You find out these techniques that catch them when they're tough, still catch them when the fishing's good. So it just makes it a little easier to plan your day. You know you can catch a limit. You just feel like you can just work off that. And that's really what helped me. I've catched them early. And once you catch a limit early and I don't have much pressure, I've already made the Classic, it seems to roll. I've been fishing real intuitive around here, just fishing wherever I want and not worrying about the consequences. So the Western finesse techniques are really an advantage, especially with this cold front coming through. If the cold front hadn't come through, it wouldn't have been much of a factor. But I think last couple days of that wind and stuff really changed the bite, and to the better for Western guys.
There's John's third fish on the day, and he's fishing that sunken bridge, looking at his electronics to find the hot spots.
They just seem to hang along this old bridge. It goes from about 15 feet down to 35 real quick. And there's a ton of fish hanging on it, and once in a while you get one.
Well, Rick Clunn, let's go over to him. He's not even getting bit once in a while this morning. And how much, Fish Fishburne, would he like to win this tournament and get himself into the Classic?
Rick told us he struggled the past 2 seasons on tour. He wants to make another Bassmasters Classic. By the way, he's only qualified for about $1 million. The guy's a 4-time Classic champ. You can see him. There's a fish right here on a crankbait. Now, he's throwing a variety of crankbaits, fishing from about 2 to 4. He lost him. Lipless crankbait.
Some of the second fish I've lost, which ain't bad. Many fish have I been catching, but timing is still everything. Not a good way to, kind of like on the opening drive of the game, you fumble the football.
Competition always on his mind. The winningest of all time, Rick Clunn, just finishing up a couple of rough seasons, but he's done very, very well in this tournament. He'd like to catch this guy right here, our leader, John Murray.
Still drop shotting, and Tommy, he's going to catch a limit there every day before he goes for broke in the shallows with his big lipless crankbait. John Murray, a smart confidence technique.
Set the hook instead of letting him eat it. Little mistake there. Mental error. A little bigger worm. They just might need a little more time to eat it. I rigged that thing up. Wow, look at the hook points down too. That's not a good thing.
Maybe.
Fish, I know you and Jerry know more about the technique, but the thing that impresses me the most about Greg Hackney is his confidence. He's always relaxed.
Confidence is 80% of the game, Tommy.
Yes, sir. And Greg, we talked much earlier about your relationship with that grass, why you like to fish it, and Jerry went on at length and explained that for us. But I want to ask you, do you think that those fish live in that grass all year long?
Oh, yeah. They will never leave. They, I mean, you have fish that migrate on and off the grass, but you have some resident fish that never leave.
Hey, Greg, it's Fish Fishburne here. Hey, question for you. Is this the technique that you anticipated using when you came to Toledo Bend?
Well, I had read a couple articles before I came over here, and both articles I read said that the grass was on the southern end of the lake. So I came down looking, not really You know, I was hoping I was going to get to do this. This is the way I kind of wanted to fish, was to jig fish in that grass, but I didn't know if it would be tall enough. You know, it needs to be standing to do this. If it's laying over, they set on top of it, you're better off with a, you know, with a bait that can cover over the top of it. But with it standing there suspended in that grass.
Tell me a little bit about the setup now. Describe the jig, the line, and just what's going on down there.
Well, really all I'm doing, I figured out this morning, I'm not getting any bites once it gets to the bottom and I pick it up and move it. Everything, all my bites are coming suspended from anywhere from 3 foot deep to about 8 foot deep. And they're in about 12 feet of water.
Greg Hackney has notched a tournament win this year, the Open Division Championship on Lake Washita in the Central Division.
And you know, Tommy, everybody in the top 6 has won before except for our leader, John Murray. And Greg Hackney's confidence, as you mentioned earlier, this guy is really formulating a plan. He's getting very specific with the weight of the jig, the depth of the jig, and the type of line he's even using.
And he's very convinced that he's doing what it's going to take to win. If he's got a shot at winning this thing, he's in the right place and he's using the right technique.
Remember day 1, Stephen Browning, our leader, caught him on a jig in the same type water.
Well, when we come back, this is the year that bass fishing finally hits the big leagues, the highest level of competition ever for the greatest performers in the sports. We will explain the E50 when we return. Also, the next wave of bass anglers are hitting our shores, one of them from as far away as Australia, and she is impressive.
See where he bit that off? Right there, I'm gonna put another twin tail on my jig. Thread that thing on there and get it started, and then I'll put just a little drop of glue on there. Just barely touch the tails of this grub and that dye. Juice her up with a little crawfish scent. Start over again.
So you ask yourself, why is Stacey King going to all of this trouble to make these bait modifications, little subtle changes to that jig to increase his odds of catching fish? Is that the only reason to add the twin tail? Is it the only reason to dip it in the dip and dye? Or is it the reason to change skirt colors or sharpen hooks or anything else they do? Tommy, no, it's not. It's about the big C, confidence. With a lot of confidence, you're going to catch more bass. Up goes the weight, and to the Classic you may go.
All right, you may go. If it works up here, why not try it? Well, we may be going to the Classic. This is the big one, the first ever Open Championship, Toledo Bend Reservoir, right there on the border between Louisiana and Texas. Final day, 6 guys left in this championship. First place, yes, that trip to the Classic. Rick Clunt is in 6th place right now. He hasn't been to the Classic in 2 years. Wouldn't he love to find a way to get on top and get back to that Classic?
Boy, he would. I can assure you that. Gary Klein has finally showed up on the scoreboard, and Gary will be a bit of a mystery to us the rest of the show. Technical difficulties will not allow us to see his coverage. However, something really interesting last night before he went out. His spot down there in White Oak Creek dried up. So he gets his map out, and he begins to show us how he's going to duplicate that place, how he's going to take care of the problem that he has.
So out at the mouth of this creek, you have, acres and acres of a lot of aquatic vegetation, and I know it's got a good concentration of fish to draw from. This creek has got a good concentration of fish in it too, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to really pay attention and try to duplicate that area. So just right up from that creek about 3 miles is another major flat. But what's unique about this major flat that has a lot of grass on it also is that it's split by 3 major creeks. And so that's really caught my attention, and all 3 of those creeks have pretty much the same depth as that other creek. Same factors involved, a lot of aquatic vegetation, good defined creek channels. So it's definitely creeks that I'm going to take a look at and try to duplicate the area that I found these fish. And that's one of the ways we try to manage our fish. You catch them all in one day, then it's a 4-day event, so you got to try to save a little bit.
This, again, is the first ever Open Championship. We took the top 20 performers from each of the 4 divisions across the country, brought them here. Those are the people who started this tournament. Some great competition, though, within the divisions before they even got here, with a lot of rewards right at the top.
Absolutely. A full field in each of these Open Division tournaments was 400 anglers, 200 boaters, 200 non-boaters. We whittled it down. Only 3 guys from the boater division go to the Citgo Bassmasters Classic.
And Jerry, speaking of guys who have won a lot of tournaments in their careers, we got something very important to talk about right now, the E50, the Elite 50.
You know what? Every big league sport has a big league. and a system to get to that big league. Except for bass fishing. We've got a system to get there, but once you get there, there's no level up there. So, Bassmasters has created the Elite 50, the best 50 anglers, and we're going to compete 4 tournaments after the tour season this year, starting in April. Great purses, no entry fee.
Really looking forward to the
Yes, sir.
E50. Coming up, we're going to meet someone who may be a member of that E50 very, very soon, but probably not this year. An interesting person nonetheless, right, Fish?
That is correct, Tommy. We have anglers from all over the world competing with the Citco Bassmasters, including folks from Mexico, Zimbabwe, Spain, Italy. And here's somebody, a special treat, the first female to qualify through the Citco Bassmaster Opens for this championship.
My name is Kim Bain. I'm from Brisbane, Australia. I've been travelling out to the United States probably for the last 2 years, and most of my time I've spent on the West Coast, so that's where I felt the most confident. I figured, hey, I'll enter the tournaments and see how I go.
Who got you started in this?
My dad. Fishing's been in my blood, I think, ever since I was 4, but I think the basic principles of fishing can be applied around the world, so it doesn't matter where you are, and if you enjoy it, just get out on the water and have fun. Yeah! I love the fishing, I love the friendship, the camaraderie, fast boats, you can't beat them. I love it. I'll be back next year for sure.
Youth, enthusiasm, and a whole lot of ability of one Kim Bain, a lot of fans. Now we get back out onto the water. Take a look at the scoreboard now, still reflecting the big lead from John Murray. You know, Gary Klein is one of those locks for the E50 spot as he sits in 7th place on the money list. But as we say, we missed his coverage today, but we still value his words.
I'm the type of angler that if I don't really get out on the water in a couple of weeks, I start getting a little antsy, and I like to continuously fish. And at the level that we compete at, against the guys that we compete at, I mean, you got to stay current. And it means practice. And competition is getting stouter every year. We have better anglers on the circuit. And you have to pay your dues. It's like any other profession. If you want to gravitate towards the top and be at the top, I mean, it's hard work. And, you know, it's dedication, and it's really studying and constantly learning. I think that's probably one of the keys to bass fishing is it's always changing. You know, the techniques, the tackle, you know, the equipment, our knowledge is really changing. And, you know, after, you know, the years that I've been at this sport, I think that's what I've always found so intriguing about it. You know, nobody's ever really figured it out every day they've ever been on the water. You know, it's a very humbling sport, and we're out there trying to catch fish, and it's an hour by hour, minute by minute challenge. Got it. Good.
Coming in on this side. Get in here. Yes, sir. Right in the same place where I caught that other one a while ago. When he finally decided he wanted it, boy, he thumped it. Maybe I better just sit right here the rest of the day.
Fish, there's a lot of fish taking on a drop shot today. How about you explaining what a drop shot is?
Well, take a look at this thing. It looks complex. It's not. It's so simple. You tie a hook on, you use your terminal tackle, you put a weight at the bottom, and basically, Jerry, the worm is elevated about 12 to 24 inches above the bottom, and it just looks so natural. But it's not the only bait catching fish here this week.
No, I want to show you a Missouri rattling vibe, which is lipless crankbaitings. Almost impossible to fish wrong if you're in the right place. You got to make a long cast, steady retrieve, lots of vibration, and that drop shot in John Murray is going to surprise us with this lure.
Well, we're just about ready to see what this John Murray surprise is going to be all about. Plus, we've been exposed now to the Bassmaster Elite 50. There is one more event coming up this year that will affect one of the contestants in this Open as Mr. Murray prepares to change locations.
Oh, I got to go fish my flats the rest of the day. I've been saving them for 2 days. You know, I go in there and catch a couple fish and leave. I want to know if there's any in there or not. Might be all a waste of time.
The Citco Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Lowrance, by Berkeley Tri-League, by Motor Guy, and by Flowmaster.
Welcome back to Toledo Bend Reservoir, the first ever Open Championship. Look at the leaderboard. John Murray, the guy still firmly in charge. He is changing to a new location right now. Before we get out to him, let's visit with Mike Iaconelli, the guy who won the Classic last year. May have put himself on top of the bass fishing world, but he's also a guy who remembers his roots.
Right after I graduated high school, I joined my first bass club, and that was a really important time for me. For the first time, I really saw up close competition mixed with bass fishing. And I bought a small little John boat, and the learning process began. And we meet once a month and have a club meeting. We go over topics, talk about what works, what doesn't work, and that's a great outlet to have. And the neat thing about it is, even though it's here 2003, it's almost, 10 years from when I first joined the club, I'm still an honorary member of the club. And I can still go back, I can still go to the meetings and share ideas and share thoughts with these guys. The little bits and the little steps you need to become a great angler, I learned from the club level, from the grassroots level. The only real way to do it, to become a great angler in the sport, is to work your way up through the steps. And joining a club, joining a federation-affiliated club, is your first step on becoming a pro angler.
As we get back out to Toledo Bend, another look at Jack Wade, who fished we haven't seen since the top of the program, but he stayed with it.
Well, hello again, Jack. And he's put down that crazy Carolina rig. He left that key area, and this is a good thing. Tommy, in a 4-day competition, you better have some backup fish. You see right here, he switched over. He's throwing a crankbait. He was even throwing a spinnerbait a good bit to find a few more bites.
Now, when you're faced with a big stump field like the one he's gotten right here, I mean, where do you start? It all looks good, or sometimes it all looks bad? How do you know where to actually start fishing?
You've got to look for bottom changes, Tommy, or grass edges or drops. And you know what these guys will do is make short, accurate casts in the timber. So once they do hook a good fish, they'll have a better chance at just landing the fish. You'll see Jack likes using a net when he's in this thick timber, because a lot of times those fish will bind up in and around those stops. There he goes right here, reaching for a net. He's got a long handle on that thing, so he can reach right out and touch one of them.
Well, till just recently, Jack Wade only had 2 fish on the day, but now he pretty much completes his limit. This guy has not given up. He's made the biggest move of anyone.
Come on, Jack, you can do it.
Well, fellas, let me tell you that John Murray has made his move finally over there to the pockets just above Pendleton Bridge, and he, number 1, proceeds to lose a bait on a fish. He's only got 2 of those crankbaits, and now he hangs the last one up in a trot line. Of course, the line wrench or the pocket knife comes out. He loses about 20 minutes in freeing this lure, and think of it, 1 bait left, and you hang it up in a trot line. But John, for the moment anyway, everything seems to be going pretty good. You got your bait back. You're ready to start fishing. I want to talk to you.
I got one.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about the area that you're fishing with here, and we will get back to that. Man, you are a hot angler, aren't you?
Well, you hear this shaking on a rattle trap? I just caught one on a rattle trap.
Boy, that's a decent fish. Surely that's a keeper. You know what? You ought to be able to cull with that fish.
Yeah, it's a keeper. I got a little weird wind direction right now, and I'm gonna have to change my drift that I've been doing. It's been a north wind. So right now I'm gonna have to change that about. I got just a little keeper, but I just broke one off a little earlier, and I think they'll bite today.
Okay, let's kind of settle down just a little bit here. And how about describing this area where you're at? And is this your primary big fish spot that you've been talking about all week?
Right now, I'm exactly in my big fish area. I have had every day about 11:30, I've come to this area, and it's had wind blowing on it. It's a shallow flat. And the first day I pulled in here and caught a 4-pounder, and yesterday I pulled in here and caught a 5-pounder. Today, they seem to be coming in, funneling into these little flats in the last couple hours of the day.
Well, this is evidently a pretty unique place. Can you describe the contour for us a little bit?
Well, it's sort of interesting. We don't have anything like this in Arizona. We just have little draws coming in, and they basically have a stump lining and little channels. And those fish are just relating to these little channels. There's no grass up here. There's just stubs. That's all there is. There's not much to hold the fish. And I'm just casting at the random stubs at the mouth. I have to key on the mouth of these little draws, and that's where the fish seem to hang out.
How deep is it up next to the bank, and how deep is it out in the middle of the pocket?
Well, the flats are very shallow. They tape right up to the bank, and I'm trying to keep my boat in anywhere from 5 to about 15 feet of water at the mouths of those little flats, and keep my bait moving real fast by the outside structure. And when one decides to eat it, I mean, he lets you know about it right then and there.
Well, we're proud of you, man. You are really performing well.
Well, you know, I got one here in just a minute, Jared. Let's see if I can get this fish. Let me get this fish. It's a big one. It's a real big one.
Well, tell me about him, boy. We may have a real story
here. About 5 pounds or bigger. Maybe bigger.
John, you have done it, man.
Got the big bite. And I'll talk to you in just a sec. He's a little bigger than 5. He's actually 5.5 or 6. Let me wrestle him in the boat here, Jared. There's nothing wrong with that fish right there.
There is nothing wrong with that fish. And as a matter of fact, you're going to be wanting to talk to me all the time from now on.
This is the way to go right now. Just talking and fishing and relaxing. I just had a bad episode with a trot line, and this one just made up for it right here. I'm shaking, Jared.
Boy, you're going to have to give me a little bit of credit for that one, John. Come on.
Yeah, I'll give you, yeah, definitely. That's no problem right there. That was my 5th fish, and boy, the pressure just, that feels great. I'm ready to go catch some more.
Well, go ahead now, but first, finish your thoughts on Western anglers.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you got to be really proud of your accomplishments.
Well, that's the key. There's so many good fishermen that have come from the West, starting with Gary Klein, Jay Yellis, Aaron Martins. I just like to, you know, be associated with that group of great guys and fishermen. And, you know, we're proving it doesn't matter. Mike Iaconelli went in from New Jersey, where you grew up. Bass is a bass. You're going to catch them. And really, to me, it just shows you that, you know, you work hard on these patterns all your life. You can apply them anywhere you run into.
Well, well, let's see if John Murray has any more surprises for us. Plus, when we get back, we're going to check up on Rick Clunn. And in the meantime, why don't you try and guess the weight of that last fish that John Murray caught? Tim Horton, sitting on that Pure Later Big Bass Award right now with a 7-1. He's trying to guess how much it weighed. Now it's time for the Citgo We Know What Drives You. The last Bassmaster event on Toledo Bend was in February 2003, immediately following a national disaster that had big impacts on how the tournament was fished. What was it? We'll have the answer when we return. Toledo Bend was the 4th stop of the 2003 Citgo Bassmaster Tour. A few days prior to the tournament, the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster occurred, spreading debris all along the Texas-Louisiana border, much of it into Toledo Bend. The search and recovery effort, which produced more than 80,000 pounds of debris, forced the closure of parts of Toledo Bend Reservoir. Welcome back to Toledo Bend Reservoir, the first ever Open Championship. John Murray, as we look at the leaderboard, still the man in charge. He seems to have pulled away from the pack. I don't think anyone can catch him now. Rick Clunn, all day long, he has not caught a fish. Rick Clunn, a very competitive angler. Competitive for a lot of reasons, and one of them, the fact that he has a young family who maybe don't know everything there is to know about his amazing, amazing career, including his son, who's watching him right now.
Yeah, you watch him over there. He doesn't have a clue what's going on most of the time. He has a great time. He loves to come, but he doesn't really know what I do. And you know, Melissa and Sage and River, they're my motivation. They really are. They're probably my biggest motivation. I don't want my kids to sit there and say, well, they tell me you used to be one of the best there was. You know, I still like to show them that I still can be the best there is.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tommy Sanders, I certainly think Rick Clunn is one of the best. He's in all of the standings across the country in every tournament he fishes. He's got a shot to win. There you go. Clunn just boated his first bass on the afternoon. Tommy's won 4 classics. He's won just about every title that the Citgo Bassmasters has. You can never count him out.
No, he certainly has nothing left to prove, but that has not stopped him or his motivation in any way. Back over to John Murray, who has tested his mettle against Rick Clunn today and come out looking really good.
Sitting out on this flat that's virtually barren. I mean, it's got a few stobs and stick-ups on it, but he's found a way to take that lipless crankbait and run it around the barren cover that's there and locate the few fish that are piled up on this flat.
John Murray, what an outstanding year he has had. He has certainly impressed a lot of people. All 3 tournaments in his division. On the Columbia River, on Clear Lake in California, on Lake Mead, he has never finished out of the top 10. That is impressive.
And if there's bass and grass, Greg Hackney, if he's around him, he's going to catch him. Look at him right here. He's hooked a fish in the 4-pound class, swings him in the boat. Go Hack Attack. I love this guy. He is the top premier jig fisherman, and he's wearing jigging gloves. Tommy, I don't know if you've seen those.
Jigging gloves. I love it. I love it.
People think they're yard gloves. They're not. They're made specifically for handling lots of big largemouth.
The Hack Attack and the Merman, as you call him, John Murray. I tell you what, this guy has really done himself a lot of good today. He was already qualified for the Bassmaster Classic coming into this thing. He's taken that spot, so he has reduced the number of people who are going to qualify for that Bassmaster Classic spot by taking first place in this tournament. That spot goes wanting for the rest of the year, so he's done himself a double good deed today.
I've been telling you for years, the West Coast anglers have come on strong. John Murray, just another example of that, already qualifying for classics in the past, and now he's applying some of those techniques.
All right, John Murray, all of these anglers getting a good tune-up, getting their gear straightened out, getting ready for the tour season, which starts in just a matter of weeks.
Final thoughts are, it was a great week. I had a good time. I love Toledo Bend. In December. I think I love December, but I love Toledo Bend in December. Fun times.
Not hard to love Toledo Bend when you're in that kind of position. John Murray cranking it up, heading for the weigh-in. No happier man on the lake, in fact, right now than John Murray. We know he's happy, but he may be happier when he gets to the weigh-in. He may be in line for 2 more very special awards at that weigh-in. We'll let you know all about that. That is coming up. And guess what Greg Hackney did at 4 a.m. on the 2nd day of this event?
You know, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch Bassmaster. Let me see. It's Friday morning. That was the Clear Lake tournament was on Friday morning. You know, I can get up in the morning before the tournament and watch Bassmaster. And I guess that's one reason I'm having such a big time today, because when this show airs, I'm gonna get to see myself on there.
Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Citgo, and in part by Bush, and by Triton Boats.
Welcome back to the Citgo Bassmaster Open Championship. It's weigh-in time. And now to Fish Fishburne.
And here he comes, folks. Give it up for Jack Wade. The Jack Attack, 6th place. Wants to move up. What'll it take to get him up there in the #1 spot? 11 pounds and 6 ounces.
With that total, Jack Wade would pass the legend Rick Clunn and Stacey King on this day, but not enough to catch the top 3 anglers.
Welcome, Greg Hackney. Now, Hackney, you need around 8 pounds and change to take it away from the Merman. Come on, Hack. There you go. Let's go to the scales. Looking for 8 pounds, 10 ounces. Got it. 9 pounds, 9 ounces.
This lead would be short-lived for Greg Hackney, of course, with John Murray still to come to the weigh-in stand. Gary Klein to weigh in as well.
You talk about consistency, talk about one of the top anglers in the country. This man is qualified for 21 Citgo Bassmasters Classic, 7 times the champion. Welcome, Gary Klein. Here he goes. He's looking for another 5 bass limit. Come on, Gary. There you go. Uh-oh. To the scale. Looking for 8.2. Got it. 8 pounds and 6 ounces. Gary Klein. I want to hear about T-Bend.
Well, Toledo Bend is just it's an awesome fishery. I mean, you know, anybody that lives here ought to be very, very fortunate to have something like this in their backyard. First time I was ever on this lake was in 1979 when I first started touring BASS. And back then it was phenomenal. It's just as good today as it was back then. The only thing is that it's changing. And that's been one of the hard things for me to really get used to is the last several events that we've had here is I've always fished it, you know, based on 10 years ago. And I'm starting to learn how to relate a little bit better to these fish. They are relating to the lake a little bit different. Everything's changing.
Welcome, your current leader coming into the final round of competition, Phoenix, Arizona's John Murray. Out there, show him to the crowd. There you go, folks. Your 2003 Citgo Bassmaster Open champion, John Murray.
It was my day, my week, I guess. You wait a long time when you fish these tournaments to have a day like this, or really the last two have been unbelievable. But some great stories happened today, and you know, I don't think they'll ever be duplicated. You just got to enjoy every time it happens.
Well, a big round of applause, and how about all the respect in the world for John Murray, the guy like a tsunami from the West Coast. He just comes in, wipes everybody out. He wins the tournament. Not only that, he wins the Purelator Big Bass Award. Tim Horton thought he had that one sewed up with the 7-1. John Murray comes in today with the 7-5 and wipes that out, takes that award, and sews up a spot in the Bush Shootout. Stephen Browning had his arms around that one earlier in the week with the 18-pound-plus stringer. John Murray wins that today. The guy is just incredible.
And who won the event? Oh, yeah,
John Murray. That would be one John Murray. Well, we're going to move on. Next time when we see you, the 2004 tour begins in earnest down in Leesburg, Florida. The Harris Chain of Lakes and Fishburne. One of the things that gets started down there is Angler of the Year, and that's so important.
It does, and these guys have had this warm-up tournament to get ready for the Angler of the Year, and there's a big controversy. Is the Citco Bassmaster Angler of the Year award that much more prestigious than the Citco Bassmaster Classic champ? Well, the consistency is the key with the Angler of the Year. We saw Jay Yellis walk away with it last year, but my money is going West Coast this year, man. Skeet Reese won the tournament on Lake Harris last year. John Murray's in the wings. Let's see what happens.
He's following it.
He's making predictions. Another thing we're going to be looking at getting started, all the jockeying, all the excitement around the E50, qualifying for that.
All 6 tour events are so important, and you know what? At the end, we're going to have 50 really happy anglers in 10 with broken hearts.
All right, well, that may be the way it's going to be. It all gets started next time when we see you on the Harris Chain down in Leesburg, Florida, on the Citco Bassmaster Tournament Trail, presented by Bush.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.